Greetings, everyone. This is Miss Sisi, the real InfoPreneur. How are you all doing? Of course, we are still dealing with this pandemic situation. We'll call it that because there's been a lot of information that has come to my attention, but that's a whole nother show. So tonight we will be talking about high-risk Black mothers protecting themselves and their babies. We are joined with Nicole and Logic. Logic is of Melaneyes Media, and he does documentary films as well as tourism in his town. So welcome, both of you.
Peace and greetings.
Yes, thank you so much again for joining us. So Nicole, talk to us about the project. Like, what actually got you started in trying to, or not trying to, but wanting to film about Black mothers and Black babies?
Right. Well, I'm a mother, and I have a now she's 6 years old. Right, she just had her birthday, so she's 6 years old. But I also have a son. I delivered my son stillborn at 33 weeks.
Oh.
So my youngest child, and it was a perfect pregnancy. Everything was going okay, but I do feel like I had a lot of concerns. I felt like something was off. My first child, I had a midwife. We did have complications, but she was okay. And I always tell people my midwife would come and see me, and she would come to my home, and we would talk for like 2 hours, right? And we bonded. And when I was pregnant with my son, I felt pressured to go to the doctor because things didn't go the way people wanted them to go. So I felt pressured to go to the doctor. But when I would go to the doctor, I'd be waiting for like 30 minutes. I maybe talk to her for like 15 minutes. And I felt rushed, and I would tell her I have these concerns, something's not right. I just, I feel like I should be high risk because of what happened with my first child. And she was just like, no, you're okay, you're okay. And so when at 33 weeks they told me there was no heartbeat, I was shocked, I was devastated, but I also felt like somewhere in the back of my head that has she listened to me? Has she taken my concerns seriously? Has somebody listened? That things might have gone differently. Because with my midwife, it was a totally different experience. I had a midwife and a doula, and she took my concerns seriously. So it's a very personal thing for me. It's near and dear to my heart. It's a way that I honor my son. It's also something that I do research on. I've always been interested in this kind of mammy figure, in the ways that Black mothers in particular, are erased right through this kind of mammy image that says the only way that Black women can be maternal or motherly is towards white children, it's towards white people. I'm thinking of like films like The Help, right? Because I do pop culture where you see Viola Davis's character tell the white girl, you is kind, you is important, you're special. And I always say like, ooh, she's telling a white child that, but the person who most needs to hear that is Black children, right? But it's this way that Black women aren't allowed to be caring and maternal towards our own children. We are, obviously, but we aren't given these kinds of moments in pop culture and film to love our children in that kind of way. So I would say that's where, when I lost my son in 2016, my research changed and I began to think about it from a different standpoint. So, but that's where my interjection comes into play.
When you were talking about not being able to love our children, I mean, there's generations of us that can still feel that projected roughness of our mothers. I'm not even talking about our fathers, but our mothers, the ones that we first suckle from, and something that I recognize as well. A lot of times, like when they're even bathing us, they're very rough. Combing our hair, very rough. And I believe that that's generationally passed down because it's almost like love is shown as a weakness. And so what do? We ended up passing that down to our children. So how can we correct this problem? Because we are love. So how can we actually go back and make sure that we are portraying ourselves as who we truly are? Wow, that's so sad. Yeah, I've never even watched The Help. I won't watch it. I mean, I've seen enough previews. I'm like, I don't want to see that. There's just certain things I won't let in my gate. So I've not seen that movie. Yeah. Ooh.
I only watched it because I had to for my research, but I was the same way. I was
No,
like,
no, I understand. I get it. But it's just like, some of these things are just so very painful, because it's not that even it's the past, it's still our now. It's
Mhm.
current, it's present. So it's very painful, and we can connect with it in so many ways, and it's sad.
Mhm.
So, Logic, why don't you go ahead and talk to us about your documentary career and how you and Nicole actually connected?
Mhm. So I met Nicole probably about almost a year and a half ago.
Mhm.
I started, my background is in video and marketing. So I have a company and we produce online videos and commercial type work. When I met my business partner, whose name is Andar Ma'at, we constantly talk about history. We always have historical conversations. And
Mm,
so he and I got together one day and he was introducing me to a play that he had written and he told me he was going to perform it.
mm,
When he performed this play, it was the story of Malcolm X. And he was in character and he was killing it. And it was like a one-man show. I could not believe there were not more people like sitting in the audience to watch it. And I came to him afterwards and I told him that we should turn that play that he just performed into a short film. And that was in 2016. We produced it in 2017. And
mhm,
that's pretty much how I got started in doing films. I really, before that, had no prior background in film work. Like I said, I did commercial video,
mhm,
but that was like my entryway. So it for me, it was an opportunity to merge the best of both worlds. I'm a technical person. I like technical things,
mhm,
but I also love us and I love our history. So this
mhm,
gave me an opportunity to merge both of those things. And so from from 2017, the Malcolm X movie. 2018, we put together a documentary chronicling the Black history of San Antonio.
mm.
And then this year we did a follow-up to that film, which is more like a prequel. So I have 3 films under my belt thus far.
Okay.
I love what I do. And
Mhm,
so the second film that we produced, talking about the Black history of San Antonio,
mhm,
uh, gave us the opportunity to also share historical locations in the city of San Antonio through a bus tour.
mm.
So the film kind of spawned a bus tour, and that's how I met Nicole. She was attending one of the bus tours, and she saw me with the camera. And
Mhm.
so, hold on, I'm like,
You okay? This is real life. You get thirsty and maybe choke up a bit. It's all right.
I've been talking all day.
Yeah.
Um, so when we met, she saw me with the camera, and then we just kind of had a discussion, and she pitched the idea to me, and it was really it was I don't know what to call it, but it was so interesting because I'm friends with a midwife and we were literally maybe 6 months before I met Nicole tossing around the idea of doing a movie just about natural birth. It wasn't necessarily about maternal mortality. It was more about the natural birth process.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
so when she talked to me about that, it just felt right away. I grasped onto it right away. And
mm.
so we've been running with it ever since.
Well, that is very special. And I just got to tell you, I appreciate you all coming together to bring knowledge to the greater public, our people and the vast and beyond. I mean, mostly our people, because, our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. We have no idea, like all of these things that are going on. We have no idea what actually happens once you step into a hospital or even a doctor's office. We just don't get it because we have learned to treat doctors, teachers, lawyers, all these people as God, as if they know more than us. Like you were saying, Nicole, you knew something was wrong with your body, but this doctor told you no. She shunned you off a little bit, or a lot of it. And it's like we have not been taught that we too have an opinion, you know. And so I think that you all coming together will spark something in people, because like I said, we're not aware that the hospital can be dangerous. We only know what they tell us. We think that somebody passed away because of something different than what they told us, but it actually could have been medical malpractice in some way, you know? There have been times when babies have been delivered and they pull the baby's head off, you know, and they cover it up. And our people have no idea. So I think that you all coming together will just bring a certain awareness. Now, Nicole, you are a professor, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what sort of work are you doing in the college right now?
Right. So I teach African American literature. So like right now, I'm teaching a course on Toni Morrison. I'm teaching a course on American literature of the progressive era. Like we just wrapped up Ida B. Wells Barnett's The Red Record, which was really tough for the students to read right now. I probably shouldn't have signed that one, but so I teach African American literature. So and my my specialty is pretty broad, but it's mostly 20th, 21st century literature, mostly American, Southern, and I also do popular culture and Black feminisms. So that's what I'm teaching at the college level.
Wonderful. So you have a lot of backing behind you as far as research, knowledge, and understanding outside of your own personal experience, which is,
yes.
which is great. So there is is it an Indiegogo right now for funding for the project? Okay, talk to me about that.
Well, we are in the last leg, the last 5 days, if I'm not mistaken, of a crowdfunding campaign to raise the funds to be able to release this film in 2020. So basically, we're just looking to spread awareness and raise the money to finish production.
Wow. Okay. So what is the amount that you all were looking to raise? Let me see if I can pull it up.
Our goal is $10,000. I believe that we're at a little over 2,000 right now. So about 20%. So we got a long way to go. But we're still optimistic that we can get close to our goal. So that's what we'll be shooting for the next few days. It's going to be a marathon. You
said the deadline is 5 days? Okay. Oh, wait, here it is right here. Let's see. Okay, so we need to raise $10,000 in 5 days.
8. We got 2.
Well, can we extend the deadline or no?
We can. We're not going to, but we can in the future. It's like, you know, you have to kind of, when you set the goal and the date, you kind of got to go with what you set.
Oh, now, okay. Well, see me, I'm like, let's move it around. So you guys see here's the Indiegogo here. I have pulled it up for you. And then the documentary is here, the preview of the documentary, High Risk Black Mothers Protecting Themselves and Their Babies. It's important that you support. So as you watch this, make sure that you log in and definitely support. Let me see, is this the website? Is that the website? I don't know. Yeah, that is the website. Okay. And the website is here. So Nicole, talk to us about the website. What can people look forward to when they go to the website? I have it up, of course, but what should they be looking forward to seeing?
Right, and I'll say this is Logic's website, so it's all designed by him. But you can see that there's a pre-release trailer, which I encourage everybody to watch, and it kind of gives you an overview of what our documentary will be doing, because I know everybody has thoughts. Like, we had a really good info session, which we're hosting on Facebook. We hosted several of those. So if you're wanting more information, we are on Facebook as High Risk Movie. And what it is that pre-release trailer will give you an idea of the angle that we're taking, because with all this information about maternal mortality rates and things like this, it can be overwhelming. It can be depressing. When people found out, when Black mothers, caregivers found out that I'm doing this documentary, they're happy I'm doing it, but they're like, you know, Nicole, I had to just turn off the TV, or I had to just stop taking in all that negativity, because I'm scared, right? Like, I'm pregnant, right? And I'm scared because all of what we're hearing is like, it just reinforces our death. Like, it's like, well, Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely. And so when I was talking to Logic, I was like, yes, obviously we have to address the elephant in the room. We have to address the racism, right, that is causing Black women to suffer higher mortality rates, right? But I also, the the angle that our documentary is going to take is going to talk to midwives, doulas, and Black caregivers, and it's going to talk to them about what they're doing to kind of take control over their own pregnancy, right? What they're doing differently, what kind of strategies they're coming up with. We had an info session yesterday, I think, and one of the women said she was 38 weeks pregnant. She said every time she goes to the doctor's office, she puts on like a nice outfit because she understands when they're looking at her, they're seeing her as, you know, someone who's not in need of help, someone who's poor, someone who has no education, someone who they can just disregard, right? So we're getting at this question of like, what is it that Black mothers are doing differently? Like you shared your story with us, right? This idea that a lot of Black mothers are turning towards midwives and doulas. So we're looking at it from that angle. So we are going to address the racism. We call it obstetric racism, from Dr. Dana Ayin Davis, calls it obstetric racism. She essentially says that the disrespect that Black women face in hospitals and from healthcare professionals, the disrespect, the dismissive behavior, you know, dismissing your concerns when you say something doesn't feel right, and they just say, oh, you're okay, you're fine, right? She calls this obstetric racism. So we will get at that, but we still want to hear Black people's stories and what they're doing to combat that. Because I think in the media, you don't hear enough of that, like, what are we doing? We aren't just, you know, sitting here and, you know, we're doing something about it, as we always have.
Well, my thing is, yes, it's good that we need to focus on doing something about it, but I think we need to also focus on knowing that there's something that we need to do. Like I was saying before, a lot of us trust these doctors and whoever as if they know everything, as if they are totally walking us into righteousness or whatever, and they actually could be doing more harm than good. You know, and another story just popped up. I mean, my little life has been so full. My second daughter, my poor daughters, I tell you, my second daughter, I remember being pregnant. Now, this doctor that I had, he delivered my sister. My sister's 4 years younger than me, than my other sister, and my son. And so it was just like he was a family doctor because he was my mom's doctor. But I didn't know any better. I just kind of went with it. You know, I didn't think, oh, I needed to interview and know stuff. You know, I didn't know I needed to know anything. And that's what I'm saying. We walk into these things not knowing we need to know anything. So this man, I told him one day, I said, oh, I'm so tired of being pregnant. Now, instead of him saying, oh, you only have a few more weeks, you know, and just, you know, calming me down, do you know, he told me, okay, meet me at the hospital on Monday. Yeah. I probably had a good 3 weeks left in my pregnancy. And he told me to meet him at the hospital on Monday. That's what I did. So, of course, they shot me up with Pitocin. My daughter has so many issues. Like, she started wearing glasses at like 1.5. Her tonsils weren't developed. I mean, just so many issues. And had there been a doula, she might have been able to talk to me and say, wait a minute, sweetie, no, what are you hurrying for? Like, what are you tired of? You signed up for this, you know, walked it back totally. Wait a minute, you made this baby. Now you need to make sure that the baby is able to fully grow. You don't get to get tired of being pregnant, you know, but there wasn't that conversation. That was the doctor ready to get money, not worried about the risk of me or my daughter. Shoot me up with Pitocin and deliver this girl who later on had some issues, you know? So these are the things that we need to talk about. We need to talk about there is an actual problem, right? So I'm, like I said, I'm with it. I'm down. I'm totally in. I'm so glad that you all are making awareness of this matter. And as we get together with others that are making awareness, we can definitely cause change for our people. So I thank you both for coming. Now, Logic, do you have anything else to add to the conversation? I mean, I know that you're a man, but you know we need our men there too as well. I mean, you are not discounted. You are wonderful. You are the reason why we need a doula. So it's a good, it's a good thing. What has this actually taught you in fatherhood as a whole? What is it you've learned?
Well, I'll say, well, one, I wasn't so familiar with the numbers. I wasn't as in tune with the statistics of 3 to 4 women, Black women dying in regards to their counterparts. So white counterparts, I hadn't realized that the numbers were that high. I had not realized that it was not something medical. When this was first brought to my attention, I assumed that it was something medical. But when I realized it was just flat out racism and a social problem, I really was surprised. My wife, my youngest daughter is 3 right now, but the way that I met my midwife friend Nikki is because we wanted to use a midwife. But my wife, her prior delivery had been a C-section, so she thought that she was not able to give birth. So Nikki had kind of walked her through the process of, VBAC. And one thing that we found out even through that process is that even the VBAC calculator is racist. When they calculate if a woman can, come back from cesarean to come back to vaginal birth, they have a calculator, or like a little thing where they input your age and date and all of these different things. And there have studies that have proven that if given the same information other than race, even the VBAC calculator is racist and pushes more Black women to a cesarean. So I have learned,
which we have to stop. I don't mean to interrupt you. Which is attached to dollars. That's what it all equates to. If I can make you have a C-section, then that is attached to the dollars, right?
Right.
Okay.
So for me, it was just eye-opening to see some of the underhanded tactics that are used by this system that we trust. But it's a history of that as well. It's really not anything new. It just manifests itself in different forms.
Mm-hmm. Wow. The things that we have been through, and we are still living on this earth. It's amazing that we are not extinct. So somebody must be looking out for us, right? Because they have tried so many different things to just exterminate us. And still to this day, the things that we've been talking about for many decades are still happening, So I'm just, goodness gracious. It's amazing that any of us were born. Basically, it's amazing. Well, so since we did talk about the mortality, what are some of the main issues in Black women either dying or losing their babies? Like what are the main issues, like in racism? Like what is happening? Like what action? Is there some specific action, or do you just call it malpractice?
Right. I think one thing that we can think about is this idea that because Black women suffer from race-based stress, that their bodies are holding this weight, and so their babies are more likely to be premature. Their babies are more likely to be underweight because of this race-based stress that they're encountering. This idea, some people, a researcher, Arlene Geronimus, says that it's weathering, that over time. So essentially, you could be a healthy 28-year-old woman who's going to have her first baby, but because you've been accumulating all this race-based stress, by the time you have your baby at 28, you're maybe like a 45-year-old. Your body is that of a 45-year-old woman because you're holding all this stress. And so, which means there's invisible stress that doctors aren't. So they may look at you and say, oh, you're 28, you're healthy, you can have this baby, right? But they aren't looking at all the other social factors and the ways that our race makes us more prone, not because there's something wrong with us, but because we're being hit and bombarded with all this kind of race-based stress. So I say that's another thing. I think your story, in terms of you saying that your daughter still has certain challenges that she's dealing with from the birth, right? Sometimes when we talk about mortality, we think about the Black women who have died. We think about the children, the infants who have died, but we don't always think about the Black women who survive and the Black children who survive, but are still struggling from morbidity, right? There are stories of Black women who lost their limbs, right? Who their children who lost their limbs, who lost body parts, who lost hands, right? Because they weren't being prescribed certain medication. They eventually had to do some type of emergency operation. So you may be able to deliver the baby, but you may still go through these very traumatic experiences that lead to challenges down the road, right? That you're still dealing with. And so I think when we think about what are some underlying issues, it is simply one of those things where the healthcare industry, I think you pointed this out, it's about the money, right? It's about, so yeah, do a C-section, right? Vaginal birth is cheaper, right? And I know, because I went to a midwife with my first child, I do believe that my doctor, who was a Black woman, my doctor the second time around, I do believe that because I said, I think I should be high risk, she said, what happened with your daughter, your first daughter? And I was gonna go to her the first time, but I decided to go with the midwife. I said, well, we had some complications with her. She was born at home, but it was very traumatic. She wasn't breathing when she came out. And so when I told her this story, I was expecting her to say, okay, well, clearly you have some birthing issues. And she was just kind of like, well, you shouldn't have went to a midwife, right? There's that kind of negativity that you get if you want to go an alternate route, right? If you want to go against the medical health professionals. And so I think that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're up against. And in our documentary, Logic and I are really thinking about this question of midwives, this idea that midwives have been around for centuries, right? In Africa, but then also here, African midwives bring their practices to the Americas after, they're enslaved. And we talk about this in our documentary. For the most part, especially if you lived in the South, you were going to be birthed by a midwife. My mom was birthed by a midwife, was delivered by a midwife, my grandfather. But what we see happening in the mid-19th century is that these midwives are phased out by white healthcare professionals, mostly male, who want to take control, who want to medicalize birthing. And like you say, for money purposes. Up until then, most Black people are delivered by midwives or by Black people, right? But we see this campaign launched by the United States government, right, of propaganda to essentially erase Black midwives from the conversation. And it has been mostly successful, but now we're seeing a resurgence in Black midwives and people wanting midwives, right? So I think that's some of the issues that we're up against. And I just feel like you said, there are some things that we need to know, and we need to understand that we know our bodies better than anybody else, right? And so that's really what we're trying to get at in this documentary.
Well, let's start at, first of all, why are babies being born with folks laying on their back? That defies gravity. Come on. When you think about that, it becomes such a romantic thing when you see it on TV, the woman pushing, and I even have one of those pictures of my face looking crazy. And I was like, ooh, that's bad. But first of all, it was so painful because I'm laying on my back versus upright so the baby can come down. And see, we don't think about these things. We just don't think about these things. But let's just start at the basics, the foundation. Why are we laying on our back having a baby? And then another thing is, biblically, the Hebrew women, we were the midwives. We know that. So, nothing's changed. Only thing is they're trying to erase it and make it their own and make money off of it. But we're going to bring it back around, and we're going to help each other and make this happen, and make this film known, and get together with other people, and we're going to be all right. So I thank you both for joining us. This has been such a dynamic conversation. And as new things arise with this, you are more than welcome to come back. Logic, when you make more films, you're welcome to come back. We would love to talk to you even more. Let's remind the listeners of how they can see the film short or actually go to the website or whatever. Share that with them.
The quick way is highriskmovie.com. That'll get you to the crowdfunding, and from the crowdfunding there's also a link to the website. So highriskmovie.com.
Okay, highriskmovie.com. Perfect. Well, I thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for
And
having me.
we believe for much
Thank you.
success in this. And I, again, appreciate you both for the work that you're doing, and may you be blessed, okay?
You too.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having us.
No problem.